There is a good reason that weird habits develop among victims trying to recover from narcissistic abuse. When you've spent years walking on eggshells, second-guessing yourself, and being manipulated, your brain picks up a few quirky coping mechanisms. These habits might seem odd, but they're all about survival and trying to feel safe again. Today, we'll dive into some of those strange habits and why they make perfect sense when you've been through the emotional ringer. Are you ready for number 1? Overanalyzing text messages. If you're recovering from narcissistic abuse, every text message feels like a puzzle that needs decoding. You find yourself reading and rereading the same message, wondering, did they mean that, or is there a hidden agenda? You're on high alert, trying to catch some sneaky meaning between the lines. The truth is, you've been conditioned to expect manipulation, so your brain is in overdrive. As therapist Dr. Ramani says, narcissists create this paranoia where you start doubting everything. Listen carefully. Remind yourself that not every message has a hidden meaning, and practice trusting your instincts without overthinking. Let's talk about number 2, checking locks multiple times. So, you've escaped narcissistic abuse, but now you're like a security guard at your own house, checking the locks over and over like someone's going to break in, emotionally, not physically. It's that lingering sense of danger, right? You're not being paranoid. It's just that after being in a toxic relationship, your brain's been trained to stay on high alert. As Dr. Judith Herman, an expert in trauma, says, survivors of abuse often live with a persistent sense of threat. But let's be honest, no one's no longer sneaking in to steal your peace. Remember this, you're safer now, especially in the absence of your abuser. Practice grounding techniques to reduce that lingering sense of threat. Let's move on to number 3. Avoiding unexpected phone calls. You might find yourself dodging unexpected phone calls like they're landmines, instantly filled with anxiety at the thought of having to talk to someone. Narcissistic abuse can leave you on edge, continually fearing manipulation or conflict, so even a simple, "Hey, just checking in," can feel like a trap. According to psychologist Dr. Ramani Dovasula, people who've experienced narcissistic abuse can develop social anxiety because they've been conditioned to expect mind games. So, while most people are worried about spam calls, you're out here treating every incoming ring like an interrogation waiting to happen. And honestly, voicemail exists for a reason, right? However, if you want to overcome this, remember that not every conversation will lead to conflict, so take calls at your own pace to rebuild confidence. Now, let's continue to number 4. Avoiding mirrors. You might find yourself avoiding mirrors like they're about to spill some deep, dark secret you're not ready to face. After years of gaslighting from a narcissist, it's not just about your appearance. It's that you barely recognize the person staring back at you. Narcissistic abuse can distort your sense of self so much that, as therapist Shannon Thomas explains, you start losing touch with who you are. So instead of checking your reflection like most people, you avoid it altogether because it feels like looking at a stranger. Who needs that awkward "wait, who is this?" moment when you can bypass the mirror and pretend everything's okay? Take note of this. Start reconnecting with your sense of self by practicing self-compassion and gradually facing your reflection with acceptance and kindness. You can't miss number 5. Pretending not to see people you know in public. You might find yourself pretending not to see people you know in public. You may act like you discovered a fascinating speck on the ground, or your phone suddenly needs urgent attention. After narcissistic abuse, avoiding social interactions can feel like the best way to stay in control of your world. According to life coach and psychologist Dr. Andrea Bonyor, This behavior is often a way to sidestep potential conflict or judgment from those awkward conversations. So, instead of facing that friendly wave, you're on a covert mission to become a master of invisibility. Take note of this. Remind yourself that most interactions are harmless and gradually allow yourself to engage without overthinking possible conflict. Are you still up for number 6? Taking very long showers. You might take super long showers, treating them like your spa day, but it's more like an emotional reset button. After experiencing narcissistic abuse, the shower can feel like the only place where you can wash away not just the dirt, but all that emotional baggage too. According to therapist Dr. Sherry Campbell, many people use water as a soothing escape when overwhelmed, and who can blame you? It's like your little oasis of peace, where you can be alone with your thoughts or avoid them entirely. So there you are, standing under the hot water, letting it flow over you like a serenity waterfall, and pretending you're not losing track of time. Remember to come out eventually. The world exists outside that steam-filled sanctuary. Let's keep it moving to number 7. Hoarding old text messages or emails. You've got a little digital archive. Hoarding old text messages and emails like they're rare collectibles. It's not just sentimental. It's your way of keeping proof of what was said in case someone tries to convince you that you're wrong about everything. After living with a narcissist, where your reality was constantly questioned, it's understandable that you'd want that backup plan. As therapist Dr. Jennifer Freed says, documentation can be a way to reclaim your truth. But let's be honest, one day you'll find yourself scrolling through these messages and thinking, wow, did I engage in this much drama? Who knew your phone could double as a time capsule for emotional chaos? Consider this tip. Start by deleting or archiving conversations that no longer serve you, focusing on the present rather than clinging to the past. Here comes number 8. Setting multiple alarms. Setting multiple alarms is a common side effect of narcissistic abuse, stemming from a fear of missing something essential and the anxiety of constantly second-guessing yourself. As therapist Dr. Judith Orloff notes, narcissists instill fear and uncertainty in their victims, making them hyper-vigilant. These extra alarms can feel like a safety net, but often leave you feeling more frazzled than focused. To overcome this habit, try simplifying your routine with one reliable alarm and gradually build trust in your ability to manage your time without constant reminders. Moving on to number 9. Unconsciously rocking back and forth. Unconsciously rocking back and forth can serve as a calming mechanism after experiencing narcissistic abuse, helping your body cope with stress and anxiety. Psychologist Dr. Bessel van der Kolk notes, "The body keeps the score," highlighting how our physical reactions often mirror emotional turmoil. While this rocking may provide temporary comfort, grounding techniques like deep breathing or mindfulness can help calm your body and mind without relying on repetitive movements. Finally, we're down to number 10, developing a neutral facial expression. You might notice yourself developing a neutral facial expression, and this can be a way to protect yourself after experiencing narcissistic abuse. When you're around someone who judges your feelings harshly, it's natural to try to avoid their scrutiny by keeping your face blank. It's like putting up a shield to prevent any emotional vulnerability. Therapist Dr. John Amadeo explains, many people learn to hide their feelings to avoid rejection or judgment. So, that neutral look becomes a survival tactic, helping you feel safer when emotions might be criticized or used against you. While it can help you feel more secure in the moment, it might also make you feel disconnected from your feelings and others, leaving you wondering if you're being true to yourself. Consciously practice expressing your emotions, even in small ways, to reconnect with your feelings and foster genuine interactions. Ultimately, those weird habits victims develop while trying to recover from narcissistic abuse serve as survival mechanisms to regain control after being in a situation where everything feels unpredictable and unsafe. These habits are part of their healing journey. And remember, it's okay to take your time and do what you need to feel safe again. As you heal, you might find some of these habits fading, or you might just embrace them as part of your story. Either way, you're making progress. So give yourself some grace and know you're not alone in this.